What's up? I'm back. In this segment, I'm going to introduce the character called Dr. Lepton. He's one of my favorites. He's kind of like a sorcerer supreme of the AUM universe. His origins are going to be kind of interesting because, he's a regular human who studied magic and the occult. Yet, some of the magic he studies is magic from, outer space. There's some magic, he's of Jewish descent. So obviously some magic he's going to be doing is coming from the kabbalistic standpoint, which is Jewish mysticism. But there's also going to be some vodun mixed in it. So he's an interesting character because he, was a civil rights lawyer. Used to help minorities. He got into some stuff. He learned the magical craft. Now, it's going to be a little different in his case because he's a magician. But in the AUM universe, you're going to see where we have sort of two different types of mutants. Where in other universes, a person is born with powers based on their genetic disposition. It's kind of like that in AUM. The difference between AUM is going to be is that in our universe, even if you're a person born with potential to have power, you will still have to do certain things based on yoga, alchemy, just energy work in general to unlock those keys in your genes. So it's kind of meets where even the concept of the Jedis were, where the Jedis were kind of like, you still had certain Jedis who were more force sensitive, right? So in the AUM universe, from a certain perspective, when you're dealing with the AUM universe, what's going to happen is you have two different tribes of what you call special beings. Well, not even special beings, actually. One group is kind of born like the concept of what I used to classify as messiah seeds, kind of like, a person born with the natural gift, right? Then the next group is regular humans. So you have one group, kind of like born with infinite potential. One group is regular humans. Here's the difference where we're going to differentiate. We're going to deviate from where the comic books did, or where even Star Wars did, where Star Wars, the special humans were still more force sensitive. In AUM, any human can acquire power for the most part. They just have to do the work. Now you have different groups though, because in AUM, you probably have different groups of people who want to jumpstart it, so then they take a drug to give themselves gifts. The other group probably would use the natural means, alchemy, yoga, intense energy work, a certain amount of years, and then their blood chemistry changes, and voila. So usually, let's say we call the first group, we call one group who were born with more potential, seedlings, right? Seedlings are all going to be born with a special talent. See, in most comic book universes, you have a power and you're done. In our universe, no, you have a talent, which you're born with, which is your skill, right? But then you could acquire, not your skill. A talent is something that you're born with where it's unique to you. A skill is something, is a power that you could have, that you acquire through training. So Dr. Lepton's power is the ability to speak to leptons. Leptons are a subatomic particle. He can use it to rearrange reality. He could command the leptons. They actually work as partners. He could use it to deconstruct reality, put reality back together. He could also use it to see time and space because leptons are highly connected. It's kind of subatomic particles that goes in far reaches of space. So as long as leptons are there, he can sense you. So he can sense long, vast regions of space. That's his natural talent. The magic then becomes a skill that he acquires. So you're talking about someone who could actually change reality, but at the same time, they're a magician too. So changing reality is not directly tied into their magic. Then third, in our world, the Hebrew and Arabic letters have special power. So each one letter that you command gives the user intense power. So he has the Hebrew letter kaph, and with that, he uses that augments his power as well. It gives him the ability to be above cycles, including aging. So he's an interesting character. So you may say, damn, he's all powerful. But no, he has a weakness, though. Within our own universe, what you're going to find is that a lot of the more powerful characters, power can only be used by a being that's on their level or close. So if Dr. Lepton's fighting a burglar, all that Lepton subatomic stuff is gone. Even, he might be able to use his magic, so he's depowered. Now, that may be able to, it works against a burglar, obviously, because, they're not going to know magic. But let's say you're fighting the military. Then it gets a little more complicated because then they have things that might be able to be used to fight you, and you have less power. So a lot of times you're going to see a lot of his stories based on being able to find balance and know what fights he should fight. So he would still have to kind of be on the low a little bit, because he could go from being maybe one of the top 3 or 4 most powerful characters in AUM to struggling against weaker opponents. So it makes it an interesting story, and is an interesting dynamic that plays out. A lot of characters in AUM are like that. So in a sense, because of that, the street element of our universe, where we're gonna have crime fighters and stuff like that, a lot of our more superpowered characters depend on the crime fighters to keep the streets locked, so that they don't have to really go down and fight them, because they get weaker naturally. So it's gonna come from a different perspective, and Dr. Lepton is gonna probably be one of the characters that I launch off with in some ways, because he deals with magic, so I could intertwine him doing magic and sci-fi stuff with a lot of real life occultism, and just put it into science fiction, and then you have to decode what's real and what's not. So I think Dr. Lepton is going to be a pretty interesting character. It's probably one of the favorites coming out of AUM. Be on the lookout for some short stories. You're not going to really see a novel with him yet, because we're going to focus more on the spy stuff, like Crown Lock, which I will talk about next. Well, so in the beginning, it's going to be a lot more spy and espionage stuff. The superhero stuff is going to come slowly after a while, eventually. So, till next time, peace.